run the city from the rooftops, 'cause today's gonna be my day. I just wanna climb to the top of a mountain, standing tall when I'm howling, 'cause today's gonna be my day, it's gonna be my day. Good night stress, see you in the morning. I don't gotta guess, you're always there for me. So I never see you to doubt. I think you like seeing me freak out. Good night stress, see you in the morning. So I wake up, I get out of bed, stay up, stay out of my head 'cause it's dangerous, and I don't wanna lose my mind, no. I just wanna shine like the sun when it comes up, run the city from the rooftops, 'cause today's gonna be my day. I just wanna climb.
All right. Hello, everybody. So thank you so much for, hold on just a second. Make sure I got everything straight here. And we're good to go. Okay, guys, we are live. So thank you so much. Sorry for the delay. Having a little bit of technical issues, guys. You know, sometimes this happens with live streams. So here we are, though, but we made it. We're here, right? And we're here to share a conversation with everybody. Thank you so much. So tonight, I have a guest, and you know what? We're just going to get into it because I've made her wait enough already. And, you know, she's been gracious enough to go through with this with me. So, all right, here we go. Let me pull her into the stream. And guys, help me welcome to the show, Miss Felicia Miller Johnson. There she is. Hello. Thank you. I'm actually doing pretty wonderful. Albeit what everything that's been going on here. Trying to get everything.
Too. I'm all about music. I love it.
All right. It is part of the ambiance, right? The whole thing. It's a little fun part to just doing what most people, you know, they just start the shows. I like to go a little bit flair and a little bit pizzazz and throw a little bit extra in there. So let me start by saying, number one, to everybody watching, thank you again, guys, so much. You are the lifeblood of what we do here. So thank you so much for being a part of the chat and a part of the conversation, guys. You rock, of course. And of course, everybody who is watching on all our social media platforms, and if you'll excuse me, that is my dog. But if you've watched the show before, everybody knows he's always here. He's always part of the show as well. So we just roll with it around here. So Felicia, thank you again so much for taking the time to come on the show. And, you know, one of the first things, of course, that I wanted to talk to you about was, and we kind of vibed on this a little bit, right, when we first started talking, was about, you know, not just what you do as a coach, right, but a lot of the things that you do as an individual to help people really master their emotions, right? I mean, you walk them through the whole process of figuring out who they are as a person, because a lot of the times that's why people go out there in the first place looking for a coach, is they're looking for someone to help guide them, right? So I wanted to ask you, how did you first of all get into coaching yourself, right? And you know, was it something that you were actually fell into, or was it one of those things that, you know, you wanted to go approach from the very beginning when you started this journey into wanting to help other individuals out there just seeking to find themselves?
Yeah, no, it wasn't something that I originally went out and said I want to specifically be a coach. So in my career, I've usually had leadership positions. And so I've always been that coach. What they talk about now is the coach. They ask those questions, they develop their people. I would be that supervisor that would ask somebody, it's like, hey, you know, are you interested in doing my job for 2 years from now? Because I don't plan on being here like in 5 years. So let's get you prepared and ready for this. And that would usually take people by surprise because it's like, what? Like you're asking me about my goals and what does that look like and how do I need to prepare? And it's like, absolutely. So fast forward a couple years, I bought a book that talked about life coach, and
Mm,
it sat on my shelf unread for like a couple years.
wow.
Mhm.
So it's just part of the collection, right?
Right. Then, as I know now, what my gift is that, I get these messages and they don't always pertain to that particular moment, but it's like you're going to need this later on down the line. So, of course, after my own personal experiences and journeys, I'm sitting down and I look on my shelf and I was like, oh, yeah, I did have a desire to be a life coach at one point. So, let me look into this. So, I went and got a certification. And then in the midst of all that, it came to where eventually I would have my own business coaching other individuals, helping them with things like emotions, right? But at the time, no, I didn't set out to be like, oh, yes, I'm going to be a life coach and this is what my desire is going to be. But rather, my journey in my life is what got me to that point.
Mm, wow. And, once you started to discover this about yourself, um, did you find that you had a natural just knack for it whenever you started to go out there and um, applying what you had learned and again got certified for? So, what was it like in the very beginning processes, of actually taking on clients and getting people to learn that? Because that's usually the first part is to kind of get your footing. Yeah, you kind of know, but what were some of those kind of steps for you in helping you develop your sort of coaching style and who you are?
Yeah.
Um, as a mentor to a lot of these folks. So what was that like? I always figured that I just like to learn about the beginning when somebody goes out there and starts their journey to help other people. That's kind of interesting to me.
Yes. So I've always had the gift, but I
Hmm.
would not have necessarily have admitted it because it is connected to my clear audience abilities and verbal intuition. And that is because it's connected to the spiritual realm. When you're coming from government backgrounds and business, you're like, you squash all that. Like, nope, it's just the education piece of it. So I've always had the skills and ability, but I was hiding.
Mm.
I would not have admitted that the source of that was connected to my connection with with what I call God, source, universe, what other people may reference to as that. So getting a certification because I am goal oriented and getting the background history of things, I went for that. But that was also connected to my imposter syndrome. Imposter
Ooh,
syndrome said, you got to go get a certification. Otherwise, people aren't going to believe that you know what you're really talking about because you don't have a piece of paper that says
ooh,
you're a life
yeah,
coach.
right. That's the whole thing is like you gotta. Everybody says, "Oh, well, I gotta have that certification, right?" You
Right.
know,
Mm-hmm.
you
But
know,
yeah, I always
and
had the talent and the skills and do it, but I needed that piece of paper to validate, like, yes, I can do that. But at the same time, there is something to this whole education piece. I totally believe in that as well. Like, you want to better yourself, hone in on your craft, and get better skills. So there's a difference between needing it, what you think you need in order to do your job, versus improving your knowledge in your area. Two
ooh,
different things.
and yes, right, and that's a lot of things. Whenever we start talking about going out there and wanting to learn more, educate ourselves, right? That's part of it, right? Is because I think you know even as you're going out there to help people and wanting to help guide people, you still have to kind of keep that education going for yourself as well. You have to keep progressing, um, as a coach, especially because again, you want to go out there and you're as you're growing, right? Your ability to help other people is growing as well. So the knowledge that you're acquiring to help somebody else who might have a unique situation, who comes to you, right? And um, you've read about it, you've taken classes, you've taken things that I know how to handle this. Where if you get the certification, that's it. That's what I ride with. I'm legit. I'm always one of those. It doesn't matter if you need it, if you have that certification or not. It's one of those things where you still want to continue to learn more and more because it just, again, it helps you evolve, right?
For sure. That would be like saying, I got an IT degree in 1980 and never took another class. And it's like,
Yes.
is it still the same content as it is today?
Yes.
No. So it's a continuous
Exactly.
learning journey for sure.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you took the same approach to learning or self-learning, either one, and you took the same approach like you do in IT or technology, right? You're constantly developing, you're constantly growing. Things are constantly changing. And just like you can get an upgrade in your phone or your computer, you can also get an upgrade in your mind, in what you learn, and what you can help go out others and teach, right? I mean, that's the whole thing about it, is
Yes.
not only being able to acquire this knowledge, right? But how do you use it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can study as many books as you want to, you can learn as much as you possibly can, but how do you turn around and apply it to help put put these things into motion for people? Because that's why I say, um, even as me, for who loves to self-educate himself, I still need the perspective and other people's sort of guidance in helping me continue to grow and learn as an individual. So I seek that out. You know,
Mhm.
that's for me. If I know somebody that says, "Oh, I don't know this," or maybe this is a whole different view on something I've never been able to see from this perspective, I love to take that on. You know,
Mhm.
and I would, I hope that as a coach, um, and any coaches that are out there, kind of take that same view, because again, um, I'm trying to maximize what I can for my clients and everybody who's coming to me um, seeking help and guidance. Because again, for me, having a coach is so vital in helping you kind of develop um, those foundational sort of steps, and those the foundational parts of creating any kind of value system or anything, so those people can help you define those things, right? You might have the ideas, right? You might have, this is my belief, but some of those people help you turn them into something very solid and concrete, that you can actually say, you know what, this is me. This person helped me develop me into the person that I am now. So
Mhm. That's why I say hashtag coaches have coaches.
yeah, right. So that's
And
an
I
interest.
and I will tell you, listening audience, for those of you out there, if you are researching a coach, okay, and you're like, oh, how do I know if this person's a coach or something like that? Ask them, do they have a coach?
Ooh.
The answer is no. Tap into your intuition. Because here's the thing, it's like if they don't have a coach, or it's the do they really believe in this coaching model? Are
Yes.
they really developing even themselves in that area? So hashtag coaches have coaches. So that's one of those questions. If you're like, is this person for me? Ask them. Do you have a coach? When's the last time you worked with a coach? And if they say like 5 years ago,
I mean,
you might
because
evaluate that.
yeah, I mean, and the whole thing about it is, there's, I mean, people take on coaches for all other things. People get financial coaches, people get business coaches, people get all of these other individuals to kind of help guide them. Why wouldn't they do that for their own individual lives and their own? the other, the other part of who a person is, right? It is, I concentrate on my business and I concentrate on developing ways to be successful and everything else, but then they put their own personal lives, their own personal development on the back burner sometimes, right? They
Mhm.
get consumed with making sure this part of it runs very well. And they don't ever, it's very hard for them to find that middle ground, that balance between between both worlds. Um, and I think that's kind of where I love to tell people, it's okay to go seek a coach. It's okay to go seek, because some people, they feel, like, oh, I don't need a coach. I got this. I got this by myself. I got this.
Got it all together. I don't need anyone.
Yeah,
I
I
got it
don't need
all
anyone.
figured out. Yeah,
Yeah,
those
you know.
are seekers. This is what I love about like podcasts and working with podcasters and people who watch podcasts
Hmm.
like this because they are a seeker. For anyone that's sitting there watching this right now means that you have a desire to have more information. You are open to learning new things, right? So that means you're a seeker. So then you're ready to hear new information, new ideas, all those different things, right? Whereas before, if someone's not, they don't have a coach, they're not, doing any like, as I would say, podcast listening, can tell you anything they listened to recently, then it just, just gives you insight into the person that you're going to be dealing with. And it's still no judgment. You just
Hmm.
know where they're at and where there might be some disconnect, why your energy may not be aligning with them. Because if you're on a different level, then you may not just be resonating with them at that time.
Mm.
And it's okay. They're just
So,
not at that point.
so let me ask you another question. This is kind of one that's going to go a little bit off the beaten path, but here we go. Um, so, as you being a coach and you hear everybody's situations, right? You hear people come to you, you help kind of build some sort of resolve for them. You help them kind of figure out sort of these things. You know, what are some of the things you do for yourself, right, to kind of keep yourself centered, number one, and then what are some of the things that you do to kind of help yourself find that release? That valve that you need to get. I got to get away from some of this because it's going to be hard to stay. It's hard to stay trapped in that persona where you're helping somebody all the time. There's got to be a way to let loose, to be a little bit free. So, what are some of those things for Miss Felicia
Yeah,
Johnson?
yeah. So actually, like just this Saturday, I was connected with my girl Allison. Shout out to
There
her
you go.
and Reiki session. Like I went to went to this it was like, I'm laying on her table and she's giving me this, this insight because it just gives me an opportunity time to step back on as one of my steps is relax, relate, and release. Right. And
Yes.
she is gifted at what she does. And so it just gives me insight. So that's like one of the things that I do, for myself,
Mm-hmm.
that area as well. And then, like I said, I'm always listening to podcasts to get, information like what's going on, what's the energy and the vibe, in that area. But also, one of the things that I do in order to take care of myself is doing release ceremonies. So when I'm
Ooh.
connecting and coaching with individuals,
Uh-huh.
we're exchanging energy with people. Like we are in
Yes.
connection, right? But one of the things that's so important is that you have to disconnect the what we call the attachment. You need to release
Yes.
some of those things. Y'all know y'all been into a room and you walk
Yeah.
in, you like, ooh, I don't know what it is.
But there's something here, right? That's what I'm
Something
feeling.
there, right. But then there's also been those people that you've been attracted to, you be like, I don't know what it is, but I'm just drawn to that person.
Exactly right.
I want to be in their energy. I want to be in their field. And so I intentionally, when there's, when clients and things like that, you're intentionally like, okay, thank you for this opportunity to connect with them, but now I release whatever energy that's no longer serving either one of us to be disconnected from that and like being intentional of doing that. And that's one of the ways that I make sure that I'm continuing to stay in alignment as
Mm,
well. So,
mm. I like that. I like that a lot. Because again, you can be in that present of that person, and you can. I believe this. You can take on you can take on their energy. You can take on their vibe,
oh,
right? And if it's one of those ones that's pretty, that's pretty negative, or it's very, um, very burdensome, right? That's one of those things you want to like. I can help you figure a way out of this, but I don't want to carry it myself either, right? It's to get that
yeah.
that
And
away
physics
from
has proved that, Gabriel. Okay. For
you.
those out there that are just like practical, there's a video like if you take two tuning forks,
Mm-hmm.
if you hit the tuning fork on the right, and you
Mm-hmm.
have one on the left, the tuning will start the tuning fork on the left to vibrate.
Ooh.
And you didn't even have to touch it, didn't have to hit this one, but they will align to the same tune.
Dude, the same wavelength, the same. Oh, wow. Wow.
And it's like that's the same thing with people. Also, if you take those two same forks and you put like a weight
Mm-hmm.
on like the left one, and you hit this one will make this weird sound, right? Because why?
Yes.
That means they are weighted down with something. So imagine like, you're in a relationship. You're like, oh, everything, we were so in tune and we were so aligned. And then they're like, oh, we're no longer in sync. Like something's off. And
Mm-hmm.
it's probably because there are things that are weighing one of the individuals down that have impacted their life, or even with other individuals where they say baggage. You go
Yes.
from one relationship to another relationship, you're carrying all of that tune with you. And so as individuals, we have to release that. We have to understand, what's going on. But physics, proves it. In that area,
Mm.
like you can hit something and just get them close.
Wow. I love that, right?
Align.
You
Yeah.
know? So yeah, folks, I mean there's and the only reason I bring that up is because you've been in conversations or you've been in rooms where somebody's just super negative and that's the vibe that they get. And it's so easily to tune your fork, right? You're just like you're walking out of there feeling the same way, right?
Same
To
energy. Yep.
same energy, and you're like, I got to get out of this. This is not conducive to me being in a very good mood. This is not conducive to me being um, how I want to feel right now. So I like that. I like the fact that you have those releases because they're vital. I mean, I think they're vital for people. I mean, I always tell everybody it's like a steam valve. It's that you got to let that pressure out eventually, right? Or the pipe's gonna bust,
I'm about to
right?
say, my husband saying pressure, bust the pipe.
It's gonna bust the pipe, right? You're gonna be like, holy crap! And then at that point, you're like, that's when you become for it's already sometimes too late to come to that realization that you what has been building for a very long time, and that's one of the things that I'm glad that you talk about. And let me ask you another question because we've all I started asking this. I asked this question at the beginning of the whole COVID thing when it was a build up, and now we're here almost a year later, almost closer to, hopefully closer to being a little bit different than how it was in 2020. But what were some of the things that you used to do that you kind of miss? That you, as a coach, or you as an individual, used to kind of enjoy doing out in public, or finding sort of a way to just be yourself and be a little bit more freer. There's a lot of things that I miss, but I always like hearing other people kind of talk about what are some of the things for them.
So I would have to think about that one just simply because
Oh, okay.
here's why. Instead of necessarily thinking about what I miss, I'm more of the line of looking at the new things I'm appreciating. So for me, I like for my business, I appreciate the fact that before when I would do coaching online and Zoom, you explain say the word Zoom, and people like, what?
Right. Let's talk about the Zoom.
Right? Because people were used to either going physically to somebody's office or it was just by telephone. But saying
Mhm.
the Zoom on like, so that made it so much easier because now people are acclimated to that, like, oh, okay, and like they get that, right? Thinking about like with my family, like this has now slowed down some things to where my family is more at home together. We would have sports, jobs and all these different things, and we're always on the go, go, go. But now it's more intentional, like, when Thanksgiving came, it was like just our immediate family. And it was just like, okay, that's fine. And then
Mhm.
we talked to our other family like via, FaceTime. It was just different. It was now appreciating this moment that we have, here. If I was gonna say I was gonna miss anything, is there's the connection for I know that there are some individuals that really enjoy the in-person aspect of connecting with people. But that goes back to the point that we talked about earlier. They enjoy the energy of the room, physically being present with individuals. And so
Mm.
there are some people that I haven't had a chance really to do that in helping them to feel that sense of energy that they enjoy doing. And so, yeah, that will probably, if I said I was going to miss anything, is being for those that I can connect with that really resonate with being in person meetings.
Right. So, like, for me, it's like what, like public events, speaking events. Um, Did you ever do a lot of those?
Well, I would do in person, like I would go to employers' workplaces and do those different things. And I was still doing that. Like I said, it's just more precautions or things like
Hmm.
that. But it would be, like certain activities. So, like, you might be hand out before you could hand out a pen and think nothing of it.
Yeah.
Now it's like, and like, okay, you write with it, and no big deal. But now it's like, not so much. So if anything, it just kind of makes you, use more of the creativity skills. Like, okay, like, how can we now do this to where you
Right.
still get the impact that you want to have and still be safe and honoring that people are not feeling like,
Hmm. So
they're
so
yeah,
so talking about some of the things that you kind of that turned out very well for you in 2020. What are some of those things that you're taking into 2021 and hopefully maybe building and developing on those? What are some of like maybe different practices that you're using now or different methodologies? I mean, what are some of those things that you might have learned that were forced because of COVID or whatever that you're using and say, you know what, these were very useful for me.
yeah.
Maybe I can build upon these.
And so one of the biggest ones for me in my coaching is using my spiritual gifts. Like I was saying
Mm,
before, I was using them, but I was not open about it. Like I said, I was hiding that skill. You wouldn't have heard me say the word spiritual. You wouldn't have heard me say the word intuitive. I just would have put that under my education, my education
mm-hmm,
and experience. But now I am really excited that have the freedom and the joy to be able to admit that yes, there's a spiritual aspect of it, that I use, books, that I have intuitive hearing, that I, use oracle cards, I get messages from signs, from numbers, from all these different things, which then helps me to be able to help other individuals live smart.
mm.
And so I'm excited about that journey of like this is the whole year that I will just be doing that.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the SMART method. That's always fun, right? Um, we kind of segued into that kind of nicely. So, um, let's talk about a little bit and how you actually use that in your practice and teach people about SMART goals and being just because I gotta say I wouldn't be here without them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, and that's not lying. That's essentially I would not be here without sitting down and writing those out as a priority um, along my journey. So they were very helpful, and I'm glad that we get to talk about this a little bit. So, what are some of those things that you do to a client who comes in for their first time and is kind of just saying, you know what, I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
You know, you
So
know.
here's the journey. I love this. So let me ask you this. Have you seen The Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
So The Wizard of Oz is a great visual into what I do. So one of my favorite versions is the African American version. Black culture is The Wiz.
Quiz.
So
Yes.
The Wiz. This is my favorite one, right? All right.
Hmm.
Okay. So when Dorothy goes to Oz, right, the first person she meets there is Miss One. And Miss
Hmm.
One was the witch that came
Yes.
the first time, right? And people were excited to see her and connect with her. But she was the one that put Dorothy on her path. She was the one that comforted Dorothy, who was scared when she came in. I don't know what am I doing. Where is this place? All those different things. She was the one that gave Dorothy her slippers.
Hmm.
She's, her sparkly ruby shoes with silver in the whiz. She
Yes.
was the one that encouraged her and sent her on her way, gave her her directions and her, you know, protection and what she needs to do. So she wasn't the one that was on the path like the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Lion.
Lion. Hmm.
So in my coaching, I'm like a Miss One. So
Ah.
we got those individuals that are coming out. They may be scared. They're hiding, not really sure what's going on in my life. What am I going to do? And it's like Live Smart is that path of what they can be doing as they're going on their journey to the Emerald City. And so that is to, as Dorothy, she had to see herself. Who was she? She didn't know in the beginning. Like, I don't know. I'm just staying in my parents' house. I'm a teacher and that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
She had to see who she was and awaken to that.
Ah.
Then you have to learn how to master your emotions. I was the queen of squashing that stuff down. I'm just looking at the goal. Whatever we need to do, let's get this job done. Anybody got time for suck that up, right? So you got to figure out putting words to your language, understanding I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm excited. Like, what is it, for you, and knowing where you are, upward spiral, downward spiral. And then you got to learn to ask, believe, and receive. Okay.
Ooh, ooh.
Ask for what you want. A lot of people can tell you what they don't want. I don't want this, I don't want that. But when you say, what is it that you do want, they'll hesitate. They get the look. I don't really know, but I don't want the, no, what do you want? Right. And then believe you can have it. Because many times we can ask for something, but then we got this self doubt. That really can't happen. So then that, guess what? That blocks your receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
All that whole mindset comes with that. And then shout out to those who have watched A Different World. If y'all have watched this show, when I say
Yeah.
relax, relate, release.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes you gotta stop what you're doing. You gotta take a break, right? And breathe. Know where you're at. You also have to release some stuff. Remember I told you about earlier? Like
Yes.
you do. I release this energy. Like there's some people you may have to release all of that, right? So releasing that. And then finally, talk wisely. What other
Mm.
words are you saying to yourself? What are you saying verbally? Shout out to those for the School of Yoda. If you are there with me, do or do not, there is no try. I'm telling you, I want you, if you're out there, look up the word trying. Trying technically means difficult, hard to endure. So then put onto that, oh, I'm trying to go to school to get my degree and da, da, da. I'm trying to lose weight. Da, da, da. I'm trying to make this relationship work. You are basically speaking struggle, hard to endure. And it's like, is that what you really want?
Mm.
See?
Right.
And so for me, all of that, because I was connected to, having to always feel like I had to be smart, twice as good, name was brain, love that. But it's like, okay, we've heard the phrase. How many of y'all heard that phrase? Work smarter, not
Not
harder.
harder. Right.
But it still work. My intuitive ear told me, live smart.
Mm. Look at that.
And so that's a reminder quick, like, okay, smart, what are you saying to yourself? Check into your emotions. What's going on with y'all. And so it really does begin with that journey. And so for those of you that are watching right now, here's the question I'm going to ask you. You can start right here, very easy. So your name, what is the meaning of your name?
Ooh.
Have you ever looked it up? I have run into many people in their 40s, 50s, and they're like, I have never looked up the meaning of my name.
Mm.
And it's like, that's what people are saying when they speak to you. So for those that were watching that show and wanted to say, bye, Felicia, there was a time that irritated me because in the movie, right, it was
Mm-hmm.
more kind of like dismissive, disrespecting. Who wants to be dismissed? But how I switched that around was I said, literally what they're saying is, bye, bye happy, because my name means happy.
Oh.
And that's what I said. That's what, okay, yes, I'm happy. Bye.
Bye. Right.
Like bye happy. And so it's like just even starting with that. So if you do not know what your meaning of your name is, go forth. And of course, I have a little love for Gabriel's because my son name is Gabriel. So, Gabriel,
Ooh.
you know yours? Do you know? Do you know, guys?
I don't know for sure. Not positive. Haven't looked it up in a while. It's been a very long time.
God's strength.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah. God's
God's
strength.
strength.
Yeah.
Um, and Edward is my middle name. I think it believes. Does it mean of guardian or the guardian? Um, and my last name is Liao, which is translated in English meaning loyal.
Yes. So see, that's one of those things. Right now, God's strength and then loyal. Right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'm looking at the comments. Kapow! I like that. Yeah. I mean, you think about it, when people are saying that, like that's what they're saying. That is your essence. That's part of your energy. You know,
Mhm.
embrace that, learn that. Like, what's the origin of it? Where did it come from? You know, all those different things. And if you're in a position where you can, ask your parents. Like, hey, why did you name me
Yes.
Gabriel? Why did you name me Teresa?
Mhm.
Tell more about, and that'll give you more insight, more connection into knowing more about who you are.
Yeah, that's funny. I've actually done that. That I do know. Um, that was one of the first things that I did on my own journey. Was
Mm-hmm.
I went and interviewed my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right. I went and wrote down 25 questions, some of them very difficult that I wanted to know about, and some that I would just wanted to know out of curiosity. Like, like I remember I asked her, you know, what do you remember what it was like, or do you remember anything about the day that I was born? I mean, even though I was being brought into the world, I don't remember. I wouldn't know if I wouldn't asked. So
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of interesting when she answered. She said, "Yeah, I remember your aunt was taking me to the hospital because your dad was at work and we had a flat tire." Right? I was like, "Holy crap!" Right? And she goes, "Luckily for us, we were close to a service station. A couple of gentlemen came, help, saw that I was pregnant and in labor, right? And they helped change our tire, and we got to the hospital in time. I believe she said that when she was admitted, I was born about 2.5 hours later. So
Mm, you love that. See those stories. Like, ask. What
exactly.
out. So,
I would have known that. Yeah, if I wouldn't sit down and sit down and wanted to understand like my origin story and what was some of the things about me that I didn't know, um, that's where that's I guess where my first love of wanting to learn how to do an interview started, was just with that one, asking my mother questions, because I didn't get the opportunity to do it with my father. He passed away before I thought about even approaching this, right? So I decided at that point, and I said to myself, you're going to go ahead and start doing this, right? Because if you wait or you don't know, I mean, she could be gone tomorrow. She could be gone, and nothing's ever promised. So that's where I came up with the whole concept of writing down questions, um, and then learning more about her as a individual, as an adult, other than just being my mother. Um, and I really got some in-depth answers, and I'll cherish those. I have those on a hard drive saved. Um, so I can always go back and look at those, and even at some point go, tell my kids when they get older. They kind of forget, or hey, this is what your grandmother was like. You know, and
yes,
it and it,
that's beautiful, Gabriel.
yeah, no, and it'll just take it again. It's I mean, just like we transition generational wealth. I think that's kind of just as, to me, that's almost just as vital as the money that you're transferring, is those stories and that knowledge of things you would have never known. I mean, um, and that's why I look for those. I find value in that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
We are connected. It's like our family, right?
yes.
So y'all, because I do, the real talk. He's like, you know what? You acting just like your daddy. Like,
Right? You go. I don't know what that means because I don't get it in context. But why don't you kind of explain that to me?
but there have also been times like me and my husband love. We've been married over 20 years, and like I said, we have kids, and it's like there's one of those things. Like the kids will do something, right? And I'll just be like, and I'll just like, I can't even be mad at you because honestly, it's like
Right?
it's like you know it. It's like,
and I mean there are, I mean, and it's just whatever your belief system is, but there are sciences like epigenetics where they talk about you can carry a gene, right, that carries characteristics into the next person that's being born into your family. I mean, so just like they carry hereditary genes, you can carry characteristic genes as well. So, just as an example, if you were an alcoholic, you might be an alcoholic whenever, you start getting into, because that's something that was a character trait that was passed along. There are certain things, and of course, you at some point you do have your own free will, and you can make
free will.
decisions,
Say it again.
right?
Say what was that?
Free will. You have
Free
your free
will.
will, right?
Yes.
To accept it, to accept your traumas, and to accept all the things, and to accept these things you can work past. Um, but again, it does speak to, that these things do exist, prior to, before you even have taken your first breath or your first step into this world. So I do believe in that a lot because, excuse me, there's
Mhm.
so much, there's so much to it, because it's so funny that you can be born and looks exactly like your parent or father. Why wouldn't you be able to also carry those same characteristics, and you learn those things, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's why I just, even now, like how we talked about using the example of, alcoholism. And it's like, that doesn't mean that your life is then destined for doom or that.
Hmm.
It's just, okay, that was that energy that came through you. And it's like, now what are you going to do with this? How are you going to resonate with this? It's just the awareness. And it's like, okay, I decide that, as they say, breaking generational curses. Like,
Hmm.
rub, cut. Thank you. That served life before, but now we're doing something new. And so it's just the same thing. It's just being intentional, with that. So yeah, love that.
I love that too. That's always that's a whole nother um, topic, but it's also about, for me, it's about how we are structured as human beings, and how our nature, um, sometimes is already preset a little bit, right? You're going to have, again, you're going to have same genetic sequences as your ancestors. You're going to carry a lot of things. I mean, it's the same thing with, you know, transgenerational trauma. You carry these things from one, one generation to the next and to the next, right? And um, those are things that, where I look at them and I say, you know what, they are real, they are exist, they are part of how we operate. But again, going back to free will, you always do have the decision to break the cycle. You can change it.
It's the behaviors. So I'm
Hmm.
on practical, the visuals, and helping people. Okay, so there's a story. Let's go back to like your cooking.
Hmm.
You
Yes.
this daughter and mom was cooking in the kitchen, and she watched her mom put this roast, and she cut the end off, one end of the roast, and she cut the other end off and put it in there. And so the daughter asked, "Well, mom, like, what's wrong with those pieces? Why did you cut those off?" And the mother was like, "I don't know, I just always seen your grandmother do that." And so I was like, "Okay." So then she goes to ask her grandma. She's like, "Grandma, like, mom always cuts the ends off the butt of the roast. Like, why did you do that?" She's like, "I don't know. I always saw my mom do it." So then later, come to find out, it was because back then the pot was so small that they cut the end off the roast.
So, wow.
Like, that is why they cut it off. But it was going from generation to generation, even though now your pot is bigger and you can put it in there. And that was the reasoning behind it. Like, pot was too small. So we cut it off. And we just ate the
The ends, yes, right. And you're, wow.
and here,
And
would have known that for generation just happens. Like, that's what my mom did. That's what my mom did. So, like I said, there's probably, because I think it's like the mom, the grandma. It doesn't go great.
yes,
So it's like mom, grandma. But it's like the whole point. That's why they did it.
exactly.
Like,
It's because, and then you don't even ask.
don't
We
even
don't.
ask.
We don't even ask. We just assume. We see. We go. That's the way it should be done, right?
That's what we do. Yep. My mom did it that way. That's what we're gonna do. And it's
And
like, Okay.
A- And that's why I mean, that's the whole thing about it. That I tell people, if there's anything that I would like to continue to have and take with me, it's the curiosity of a child. Because the curiosity of a child, they're naturally inclined to ask questions because they're curious. They want to know, right? And
Why?
we as adults, we
Why?
we make those we make assumptions, right?
Well,
So we have our
we'll squash that in our kids because we get annoyed.
hmm
Why?
exactly
Why, mommy? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing this? And because I said so, right? And eventually
right.
they'll start asking. But that's that inquisitive question that you want them to do that. There are times where it's annoying, but heck, can't think of his name, was it Simon? I mean, but now it's a whole big famous book like, what is your why? And asking that.
Oh, Simon Sinek. Yes,
Now we
Simon
have
Sinek.
connect back to why. Why? Because we're getting to that layers to that.
Yeah.
But there was old programming in our life that we're think about that as a parent. Like, when your kids like annoying you and they're like two or three, why? Why? And it's like, okay, having that patience to answer their questions because it's like you don't want to squash
The
that
curiosity, the
curiosity.
yes, right. I take a lot of things. I take three things from that I see from kids all the time, and I've said these before. Um, I take their imagination
Mm,
because their imagination carries so much in how creation can actually be made because they don't put beliefs and limits and boundaries on the things they see. Again, I've said this a few times. A child can believe that he's actually talking to somebody. He can have an imaginary friend, and to him, it's real.
mhm.
That can be real to him. He can have a real conversation with this person. It is only when we make him aware that, hey, don't do that.
Because people think
People are
you're
gonna, yeah, they're gonna judge. They're gonna think you're crazy. There's nobody even there. You know, so they take that away. We do that the same thing. Same thing with their curiosity. We do the same thing. It's annoying. Don't answer it. We don't just take it for what it is and move forward, right? And then I think I take a child's resolve, and I'll tell you this as well. So when a child is a baby and trying to learn how to walk, the first time it falls, it does not say, "You know what? I've fallen. I'm giving up. I cannot do this. This is
I can't walk. That's over. I tried it. Right?
yes, yes."
Done. No.
And then they put all three of them into use when they want something very badly. So if it's a cookie on a shelf, they put their creativity, their curiosity, and their resolve together to get a cookie. Right? Simple, simple, simple. But we overthink it. And again. That's why I look at children sometimes and I go, I need to think like a child. Right? You tell that to an adult, they're like, dude, you're too mature for that. No, I'm not. I'm not that mature for that. I've taken so many different angles and joys and ideas from thinking that way than I did when I thought I was an adult and used to fit myself there and say, you know what, this is supposed to be what I'm supposed to be doing in life.
You know, there are two things what you said that resonated with one of my personal stories. When my son was a kid, I used to be a sign language interpreter in my church, and I was learning sign language. And he was like two or three, and I was like, okay, we can communicate with each other. You may not be able to speak to me, we can communicate. And I remember the first time he came up to me and he signed cookie. And I was like, yes, you can have as many cookies as. I was like, we are communicating. I was like, what is this terrible Tuesday? And so we just committed, with that. So, but then also going back to the kid story. So I literally have, books on my desk, and this is one of my favorite books. You guys take it back to this.
Oh,
I knew you could, a book for all the stops from your life. It's a kid's book, but when you read that book, it has information that's really
mm,
adult. Take it back to simplify when we were a kid. And it's like the stories that we tell, another one of the favorites is Oh, the Places You Go by Dr. Seuss. Like all those classics
hmm
that we remember, it's like those were such pivotal life lesson moments. And I think, even in my coaching, there are times that I'll take it back to that to reconnect because many times the struggles or the frustrations that we have in our life is like some past trauma between ages, probably go like 7 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
Like something in that age frame that really, impacted your life. And so sometimes we need to go back to that and
Yeah.
just be encouraged to stuff
Mm-hmm.
forward to where we're at now.
Because
So
those things become deeply ingrained in our subconscious, and they stay there and they live there. And whenever they're there, that moment that we think something's going, well, oh, this is what we're thinking, or this is how I can do something, and then those traumas start coming up again, and they're like, no, you can't. No, no, no. That's not that's not going to happen. You're not going to do that, right?
release. That's when you need a release ceremony.
Yes, right. And that's when you got to take it to that next level, right? And
Yes.
there's so many. Again, there's so many wonderful methods, so many ways. That's why I say, when you go out to go find a coach, you find what works with you, what connects with you. How does that person um, mesh with you on your emotionally, your energy, your vibes? I mean, that's what's going to make you most comfortable. Comfortable. That's what's going to make you possibly the best way to be open at that point is to find that person that'll let you inside and kind of help, quote unquote, reprogram some of these things. I mean, it's pretty vital, and I'm glad that there's people like you out there in the world who um, really are passionate about doing this with other people and helping other people find
Yes.
what it is in their life. So, let me ask you one more question before I go to the final question. And this is one: is there one client that has stuck out with you that you saw them y- transition or change their life so drastically because of something you kind of help guide them to do or help guide them to learn? Has there been one particular one? I mean, I'm just asking out of curiosity.
Remember that example that I told you about? Like, I'm the one that's on a lot of people's journeys in the beginning. So I
Mm-hmm.
had the pleasure of connecting with lots of different people that we can interact one time and they can have an aha moment that's life changing for them.
Mm.
I may not know how that story is going to end, um, but I just know in that moment that they are now on their journey, their yellow brick road. And so there have been many clients that I've had that experience. And actually, that was initially one of my struggles when I first started doing my coaching program. Because many times, for those that are out there for coaching, they may say, okay, you got to have a coaching program. You got to be with me for 3 months or 6 months. You got to have this many sessions. And there were times that I was setting things up, but it never really resonated with me. It never stood because I realized that I am not necessarily that particular coach. I would be that coach that you're awakening and you're needing some initial insight, and then you're onto your path. And it's not, we may never meet again, or we may, but I had to come to terms. It's like, I had to get my ego, my shadow. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why didn't they come back? Am I not a good coach? Like, and it was like, no, you served them for that moment for what they needed. They're on their,
Ah,
and now they will meet someone else. They will meet their scarecrow or their
yeah.
man or another person that'll come along their path. So I don't have a particular, but there are many people I have visually, but as a client, I'm thinking
Yes.
coach is confidentiality.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
That I've had special moments there in that moment, and they have told me that at that time, and yeah, I
Whew.
just
Right.
appreciate being able to help them and serve them to on their ascension process.
Yeah. That's right. You're there for that season that you're supposed to be there, and then they move along. That's pretty awesome. I like that. I like that a lot. Um, and again, that's um, in the line of work that what you do. I am pretty sure there's plenty of times that um, you've kind of realized that what um, I'm making the impact that I've always knew that I possibly could. And I'm out there um, helping somebody hopefully get to that point of their their own success that they're looking for, what it is and whatever they're looking for in life. So All right, here it goes, Felicia. This is the question I've asked every guest that has come on the show.
Nice.
So I'm going to ask you the same question. So here it goes. So when the book is said and done on Miss Felicia Miller Johnson, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, and what is it that you want to be remembered for?
Legacy I leave behind is that I used the gifts that were given to me in order to help others find their yellow brick road and
Mm,
ultimately their emerald city.
yes, look at that. And there's that's one thing that I've always taken joy out of whenever I ask that question is everybody's answer, and of course everybody's purpose or their own vision of their legacy is different. And I love hearing it because I love hearing, always just love hearing different perspectives on it, right? There's no right or wrong answer. You don't even have to be comparative to somebody else's answer. It's just about what it is you are. And, um, it is one of those things where I say, now I have this answer, and it is this moment. It is that pincushion on your trajectory that who knows in 10, 20 years, it might have changed by then. But and now this is where it's supposed to be for you. And I love that. I love that a lot. So thank you so much, Felicia. Thank you for putting up, of course, with the moaning dog, folks, and the
All,
technical difficulties, right? But we roll with the punches, right? We
that's
roll with the
right. All as well. Like I said, those delays were meant for whoever was
waiting
tuning
to hear. Yes.
to get online to get in this conversation, to hear me
Yes.
say something about Star Wars, to hear me say something about their name. But if we had did that earlier, they might have missed that conversation. So
Oh,
everything
okay.
about
So if this has been asked, I apologize. He's asking, how does one become a coach? You asked a better question. Can I give my answer? Oh, if I asked a better question. Okay, sure. Well, I mean, we can ask. I mean, I guess he's inquiring about what it would take for him to become a coach, possibly.
yeah. So I would definitely say having a desire to serve,
Mm, yes. Yes.
desire
Right.
to guide, because there's a difference between being a coach and a teacher.
Folks, did you hear that? There's a difference, right?
There is
I
a
love
difference.
that I love that you said that because some people confuse those things. It's the same thing when I ask my question. Some people they go, "Well, isn't legacy about being remembered?" No, sometimes people like to be being remembered different ways from their legacy. Their legacy might be their work. That might be something they leave behind. And what they want to be remembered for might be something about, you know, being a good caring father or all of these things. So there's a difference, and there's a difference in being a teacher and being a coach. I love that. You know. So, what is the one thing that you say um, when someone kind of asks the same sort of question? Hey, what would you rather be preferred to be called, a teacher or a coach?
Coach.
Coach. There
Hmm.
you go.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
There's some people. Thanks. I'm not a good teacher. She said, okay. Okay. Well, that's a good answer there, Hyman. Thank you so much. Right.
But see, there's some things to that, because it could be even with the word teacher. If you're saying not a teacher, it's what is it that you have experienced that you want to help others through,
Yes. Right.
right? And
And
then sometimes, depending on where you're at, is it that you want to be seen as the expert?
mm, there you
Because
go.
a lot of
Right.
times we look at how many times teacher don't ask the teacher any questions, just do it. College
Yes.
professors back in the day,
Yes.
they just stand there and they just give you information.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
You know, ask a question every now and then, but it's like a coach is really helping you to tap into your own abilities, asking those questions.
Ooh. So hopefully,
It's not about me. Remember, I told you
awesome.
the example.
Yeah.
Example. It was like, why are they not coming back to me? I did this, and it's like, it wasn't about that. It was
So
about
thank
them in that moment.
Well, thank you so much, Jaime. I hope that answered your questions. And um,
Yeah.
if not, reach out to Miss Felicia. Um, you can connect with her on LinkedIn. I'll drop the link in the comments, guys, if you want to connect and schedule a conversation with her, man. She's an awesome human being, man. She's an awesome person. So, and again,
Thank
guys, thank
you.
you, everybody.
Listeners, there's a free intuitive, like I said, if you want a free intuitive
Hmm.
feedback session with me, that is a free service. All you have to do is just give me a little video and you get a video message back from me. So I will drop the link for that as well. So you can share that with your audiences to that.
Awesome. That is cool. And folks, again, um, I appreciate everybody who's been a part of this one, guys. Um, let me just pull this in here. We'll put the link in here, put it down in the comments. Guys, you can come see this and then you just click it. It is now. Bam, there you go. It is a hyperlink, guys. So you can go inside of any of the platforms that I'm streaming on. Click the link. It will take you directly to her site, and you can do like she said, drop a video. She'll give you something back, and there you go.
And so
So,
you're watching and you send me a message on LinkedIn and you drop in the box, put hashtag the whiz. And then I know that
ooh.
this
Got
podcast.
that, guys. You got to put that in there. Hashtag the
Hashtag
whiz, right? That'll separate it from everything. So again, thank you,
everyone
Felicia,
else.
so much. And of
Yeah.
course, all of you guys who have been a part of this one, guys, you rock. And again, I say this every night with all the gratitude in the world. You are the lifeblood of what I do here every single night. And you're the reason why I do what I do. And I just want to thank you again for coming and sharing your time and your energy and everything else with me, guys. So, um, man, this was a good show. I, I feel really great. I really do. Uh,
Oh,
and yes, Jaime, look, he's telling us the whiz. Oh snap! That's right.
yes.
So click on it, drop it down in there,
Hashtag.
and but yes, it was a good one. Thank you so much, Jaime, and everybody else who's been a part of this one. Um, I will be back tomorrow evening, 7:30 Central Standard Time. Fingers crossed. Let's not get any. Hopefully, we'll have a better stream. But again, if not, we'll just deal with whatever comes our way. So, thank you as well. Thank you, Felicia. And yes, guys, you know how we say around here: stay safe, stay blessed. We'll get to this together. Good night, everybody.